It's the beginning of July, and I am going to be heading out on a very big ride, and I'm bringing you along on this one. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to leave my home here in Bisbee, Arizona. This is the Jonquil Motel. This is where I live. It's our motorcycle motel down here in southern Arizona. So I've got all my gear packed up for 30 days of riding, camping, cooking in the field on my own. This is not a small, lightweight, dual sport, minimalistic camping scenario. In fact, it's kind of the other extreme, which I think is great. You know, I encourage anyone and everyone to get out there and ride whatever way you want to do it. If you want to go light and fast on a dual sport and be super minimal and get into some really hardcore technical riding, that's great. If you want to go to the other extreme like I'm doing and have a little more luxurious camp setup and be a little bit more comfortable and be able to knock out 500-mile days when you need to, then a bike like the 1200 GS loaded up with the stuff that I've got might be appropriate in that scenario. And so I'm personally really interested in spending a lot of time camping, cooking, sightseeing along the way, taking pictures, and that's why I have so much stuff with me. That said, this is still an off-road bike. This is the most capable off-road GS bike that BMW has built. And it can carry a lot of stuff. It has a lot of power. I can knock out some really long days, but I can also carry the things that I need for photography and for camping along the way. And so I pretty comprehensively went through my kit, packed up everything I think I need. There might be a few extra things or a couple things that are duplicated because I want to try out some new things. I've got a new GoPro Hero 8. I've got my DJI Mavic drone, and I've got my Fuji X-T3 camera. I have a couple different cooking options, for example, a new stove that I want to try out. And I'm also bringing a tent and a hammock sleeping situation because I want to try hammock camping. I've never done that before, but I don't want to be in a position where if it doesn't work out, I don't have a tent as a backup. So yeah, I have maybe some extra things, but there's a purpose for it. And I loaded up everything this morning. I went through all my gear. I even put it on the scales just to give myself an idea of what kind of weight that I'm dealing with. And so my panniers on either side, when they're fully loaded, are about 40 pounds each. And the dry bags that go on the top are about 20 pounds each. So that's roughly 60 pounds on either side of the bike, or 120 pounds total. And then when you add my little camera backpack and my tank bag, that's another 20 pounds total. So we're looking at approximately 135 to 140 pounds of total weight. So I'm not going to be out there looking for the most hardcore technical roads that I can find. I can go down some pretty rough roads on this motorcycle. There's no problem with that. But I don't want to wear myself out or get into situations where it's just too challenging and I'm beating myself up, I'm beating my bike up. I'm riding solo on this trip, so I do want to be safe, but I also want to explore the backcountry. So I'm really going to be looking for scenic backcountry roads. These could be 2-lane paved roads, dirt roads, forest roads. So that's what I'm looking for. Not the super hard stuff, but just enjoyable backcountry riding. And I think that this would be a perfect bike for this kind of a trip. The plan is that I'm going to leave from here, which is basically a few miles away from the US-Mexico border, and I'm going to head north. It's really hot this time of year. I mean, it's been like 95 degrees day in and day out. I want to go up into the Rocky Mountains. I want to get to some higher elevation where it's cooler temperatures, and I want to head all the way up to Canada. Looking at the map, it's about 2,500 miles. If I meander a little bit here and there on the way, it might be 3,000 miles. And then I'm going to turn around and head back on a completely different route, back to Bisbee, Arizona. So basically we're looking at about a 30-day trip, 6,000 miles. A lot of my background in motorcycling has been making films about motorcycle tours and expeditions around the world and around the United States. And when I set off to film an adventure like this, I'm always looking for a story. In the past, when I've worked on these big motorcycle films, it's always with a big group of people. And as a result, I'm often using them as my subject material. I don't have that opportunity on this trip because I'm riding solo. So this is Naco, Arizona. This is a really tiny border crossing down here between Nogales and Douglas. There's not much here. It's a pretty small little community here, although it is a very old historic border crossing. You can see behind me this kind of cool old building here, still very small, and it's a nice border crossing. I thought I'd come down here to get this ride started so that I can actually ride from the border of Mexico to the border of Canada. I don't really want to be in a rush on this trip. I really want to be able to take my time, take pictures, set up some good campsites, cook some good meals, and just not be in a rush. This is a part of the country known as the Sky Islands, the tail end of the Rocky Mountains before the Sierra Madre Mountains start in Mexico. And so you can imagine these two great mountain ranges as they diminish. In the middle, there are these peaks of mountain chains that rise up out of the flat desert floor like islands out of the ocean. And so that's why they're called the Sky Islands. This is gonna be the campsite. We've got a picnic table over here, this cool old tree. We're out here in southeastern Arizona at a place called Hotwell Dunes. This is one of my favorite places to come to. I've got my air mattress and my sleeping bag. I can leave my gear outside. I'm not worried about that. I have a tarp, I have dry bags, I have panniers, I have lots of places to stash gear. Ooh. Oh, nothing is better than an ice cold beer. Put it in there in the afternoon and it's still cold in the evening. I'm gonna finish setting up camp, cook some dinner, have a good night's sleep in my tent here, and then we're gonna get back on the road tomorrow and gain some elevation where it should be a lot cooler. Maybe find a lake and go swimming.